Hi, Elfrida here. Just thought I'd record a short video for the weekend since I haven't done one in a while. And I wanted to talk about self-esteem. I was recently listening to Dr. Harry Barry on the radio discussing his book on resilience and how he believes the whole idea of self-esteem and the teaching of building self-esteem is a really bad concept, and that it isn't useful for people when it comes to their feelings about themselves. And I have to agree. And as I was listening to him on the radio, I was speaking out loud saying, yes, absolutely. And I started teaching back in 2011 a program to teenagers, which was about the fact that self-esteem doesn't work. And what triggered it for me was my own experience of having what would be considered high self-esteem for many years in my life, and yet struggling with my confidence at times, with my ideas about myself, and being very much afraid of other people's opinions. And it was through my research, and particularly into the research of the work of Kristin Neff and her book on self-compassion, that I began to understand that the reason I was feeling bad is that self-esteem is about rating or measuring yourself. And there are a number of ways that we do it in relation to our appearance, in relation to our intellect, our capabilities, our productivity, our generosity, our friendliness, our social skills. And when we rate ourselves, we actually give ourselves a scale or a mark. Dr. Harry Barry talks about a scale from 1 to 100. But the problem with that is that that scale is arbitrary. It's not measurable in any way. It's based on our own subjective experience. It's based on what influences our programming, the media, what's in magazines, if it's your appearance, the relationships you have with your family, all of those kind of things influence where you place yourself on the scale. However, if something changes, then you can go up or go down. For example, if you have a particular score for your appearance and then as you age, you get wrinkles or your hair turns grey or you get stretch marks or your hair thins, then very often people's self-esteem drops because they can no longer achieve that score that they once gave themselves. The other problem is that it's about rating yourself in comparison, because it has to be in comparison to something, which means you spend your time looking at other people or experiencing other people and giving them scores, and you are either better or worse than them, which is a very unpleasant place to be, because it means all the time you're either judging people as not as good as you, or you're judging yourself as less good, less value, or less as good as them. And so it's really important that we drop this. Dr. Harry Barry says join his club where you don't rate yourself at all. And I have to agree. Kristin Neff talks about using self-compassion. And I always talk about self-compassion, self-acceptance and self-appreciation. When we realize that, the things that we do purely because we're human, and that we don't intentionally make mistakes. We don't intentionally set out to fail or to not look good. In the moment, the information we have, the knowledge we have, determines how we behave. And it's the same for other people. And we approach our life with self-compassion, which is one of the fundamental aspects of mindfulness and Buddhism. If you approach things with self-compassion, then you start to experience people as they are. You start to value them as they are, and yourself, because you realize people's intentions are based on their subjective experience. If they're angry, very often it's because they're feeling helpless or they don't feel they have a level of control. If they make mistakes, it's purely because they lack information, or maybe they're not being mindful or present in the moment. And so they're missing out on something, some valuable piece of knowledge that's there, that's present, that they just don't realize. And so when we're more compassionate and kind towards people, it's much easier to just be yourself, to drop this idea of, I have to be something or to rate myself. It also allows you to drop judging of others and yourself, because the things we often reject in other people, the things we don't like, or the things that we use as our measure of our self-esteem, is really often related to what we reject in ourselves. If we're focused on appearance, it's because we're often rejecting aspects of our own appearance that we don't like. If we're focused on intellect, it's because we're rejecting aspects of that. Or we believe that that is what our worth is, that we have to be a particular way for us to have value. And of course, how do you measure that value? It's subjective. And so you have to value yourself, appreciate yourself, have self-compassion, have acceptance, and be accurate in your self-assessment, which is part of emotional intelligence. And when we begin to do this, it's much easier to be comfortable within your own skin, because you're no longer looking at other people and thinking, am I good enough? you're just thinking, I'm enough. Enough for this moment, enough for this experience, enough for these people. And you can forgive yourself for your mistakes and also forgive others. So I hope this weekend that you may be able to look at yourself and others differently. And if you do make mistakes, or if the people around you make mistakes, that you'll be able to bring compassion to that and a little bit of forgiveness. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely weekend. If you want to find out more about what I do, please check out my website, www.metta-morphics.com, or you can find more information on my Facebook page.